Welcome to a session on conceptual data modeling using ER modeling. So before getting into ER modeling, let us have a look into the different phases of database design. So this figure shows a simplified view of the database design process. So first step, as you see in the figure, is requirement collection and analysis. During this step, the database designers interview prospective database users to understand and document their data requirements. So the result of this step is a concisely written set of users' requirements. These requirements should be specified in as detailed and complete form as possible. In parallel to this data requirement, the functional requirement also will be specified. So this consists of user-defined operations and transactions that will be applied to the database, including both retrievals and updates. So usually in software design, it is common to use data flow diagrams, sequence diagrams, etc. to specify the functional requirements. Now once the requirements have been collected and analyzed, the next step is to create a conceptual schema for the database using a high-level conceptual data model. So this step is called conceptual design. The conceptual schema is a concise description of the data requirements of the users and include detailed description of the entity types, relationship types, constraints, and these are expressed using the concepts provided by a high-level data model. Because of these concepts do not include implementation details, they are usually easier to understand and can be used to communicate with non-technical users. And this high-level conceptual schema can also be used as a reference to ensure that all users' data requirements are met and the requirements do not conflict. And during or even after the conceptual schema design, the basic data model operations can be used to specify the high-level user queries and operations which are identified during the functional analysis. So this also helps to confirm that the conceptual schema meets all the identified functional requirements. So modifications to the conceptual schema can be introduced if some functional requirements cannot be specified using the initial schema. And once the conceptual schema design is complete, the next level is the actual implementation of the database using a commercial DBMS. Most current commercial DBMSs use an implementation data model like a relational model or object relational database model. So the conceptual schema is transformed from the high-level data model into implementation data model. And this step is called logical design or data model mapping. So its result is a database schema in the implementation data model of the DBMS. This can be either automated or semi-automated within the database design tools. And the last step is the physical design phase, during which the internal storage structures, the file organizations, indexes, access paths and physical design parameters for the database files are specified. So you can see in the figure that in parallel with these activities, the application programs are actually designed and implemented as database transactions. So these are corresponding to the high-level transaction specifications we obtained in the conceptual design. So in this session we will concentrate on conceptual design, and the ER model is used for entity relationship model is used for the conceptual design. And the rest of the phases will be covered in coming sessions. So this is a session outline. First, we will describe a sample database application called company database, which can be used to illustrate the basic ER model concepts and their use in schema design. Then we will go through different ER model concepts like entities, attributes, entity types, etc. And finally, we will try to learn the ER diagram notations, and based on those, we will construct a ER diagram for a company's database schema. Now coming to the description of this company database, these are the requirements of the company in a simplified view. So company is organized into a set of departments. Each department has a name, unique number and an employee who manages the department. So we keep track of the start date of the department manager. And each department controls a number of projects. Each project has a unique name, unique number, and a single location. Then we store each employee's social security number, address, salary, gender, and birth date. Each employee works for one department but may work on several projects. We keep track of the number of hours per week that an employee currently works on each project. We also keep track of the direct supervisor of each employee. And each employee may have a number of dependents. For each dependent, we keep track of their name, gender, birth date, and relationship to the employee. So this is the overall view of our company database. Then coming to the ER model concepts. First, the entities and attributes. The basic object that the ER model represents is an entity, which is a thing in the real world with an independent existence. So it can be any object with a physical existence like a particular person, car, house, employee, etc. Or it may be an object with a conceptual existence like a company, a job, etc. So each entity has attributes. Attributes are particular property that describe that object. For example, for an employee entity, it can be described by employee's name, age, address, etc. Right? So these names, age, address, etc. can be called as the attribute of the entity employee. So for a specific entity, we'll have a value for each of its attributes. Just for example, an employee entity may have name John Smith and SSN like this, address. So every attribute will have a specific value for a specific entity. And each attribute has a value set or data type we can call, which is the possible values or set of possible values for that attribute. Just for example, address can be a string or age of an employee can be integers between say 18 and 70, right? Like that we can have a specific set of values for each attribute, that is called value set. Attributes. So attribute can be classified as either simple, composite or multi-valued attributes. So any attribute which has a single atomic value can be called as a simple attribute. Just for example, SSN will be always atomic, right? We cannot further divide that value into components. Whereas composite attributes may be composed of several components. Just for example, address. Address is composed of apartment number, house number, street, etc. Right? Or even name is a composite attribute which is composed of first name, middle name, last name, etc. Some case composition may form a hierarchy where some components of this composite attributes are themselves composite. And then multi-valued attribute, an attribute which have multiple values. For example, color of a car can be combination, right? So blue and red. Or previous degrees of a student, it can be a set of degrees can be there. So such multi-valued attributes are usually represented using curly braces. We can see an example for a composite attribute. Here the address is a composite attribute which is composed of street address, city, state, zip, etc. Now the street address itself again is a composite attribute with number, street, apartment. So this forms a hierarchy. In general, the composite and multi-valued attributes may be nested to any level. Just for example, the previous degrees of a student is a multi-valued attribute that the same student can have multiple previous degrees, and each previous degree can be composed of college, year, degree and field. So which can be represented like this, previous degree in curly brace, and the attributes will be listed in simple parenthesis, college, year, degree, field. Now entity types and key attributes. So entities with the same basic attributes are grouped or typed into an entity type. Just for example, employee is an entity type and John Smith is an employee. Like that, department is an entity type, research department is an entity. So an attribute of an entity type which each entity must have a unique value is called the key attribute of the entity type. Just for example, SSN can be treated as a key attribute of the entity type employee. So every entity inside the employee entity type will have a unique value for SSN. So we can distinguish different employees using the SSN value. And the key attribute may be composite. For example, vehicle tag number is a key of the car entity type with components number and state. This number and state together forms a key for a car. And entity may have more than one key. For example, a car entity type may have two different keys. It can be uniquely identified using either the vehicle identification number or vehicle tag number, which is a combination of this number and state. So now our task is to design a conceptual schema for our company database. So before moving to the design, let us just go through the different notations used in ER modeling. So different symbols used for representing the ER diagram. So first the entities are represented using rectangles and weak entities are represented using double line rectangle, relationship using diamond shape and identifying relationship using double line diamond, attribute using oval shape with a connection to the corresponding entity, then key attribute with an underline under this name of the corresponding attribute. Then double lined oval shape for multi-valued attribute and oval with different components connected together as a composite attribute. Then dashed line oval shape for derived attributes. Then different types of relationships. Those things we can see in a while. So based on this, let us have an initial conceptual design for our company database. So we have already seen different requirements for the company database, right? Like companies organized into departments, each department have a set of projects like that. So based on these requirements, we have to define different entities in our database schema, and also we have to find the attributes. After defining these entities and attributes, and then we have to introduce a new concept called relationship. So we can see the design step by step. So based on the requirements, we have a set of entities. Those are department, project, employee, dependent. Then the different attributes of each entity. So we can see one by one. So in case of department, this is a department is the entity type, and this department have attributes like locations, name, number, manager and manager start date. Those are the attributes for the department entity type. Then within that, name and number act as key for this department. Then location is a multi-valued attribute. Department can have multiple locations. So these are the basic things about department entity type. Like that, another entity type is project in which name and number are keys. Location is another attribute. Controlling department is another attribute. Another entity type is employee, which having different attributes like birth date, department, SSN, name, etc. Lot of attributes are there, within which name is a composite attribute with F name, middle and last name are the component of this composite attribute. Like the work zone is actually a relationship here. We can see what is the relation later. That's also a multi-valued relationship because the same employee can work on different projects. And these relationships having two different attributes, project and hours. Another entity type is dependent, which have 5 different attributes: relationship, birth date, etc. And you can note one thing here is that dependent don't have any key. So it should be depend on some other object to identify it uniquely. We can see those things later. So based on different requirements, we have identified the different entity types in our company database, right? And also we have identified different attributes for each entity type. Next step is to find out how these entity types are actually interconnected or interrelated. So next step is finding out the different relationships. So before that, let us formally define Thus, relationship. So, a relationship in a any database relates two or more distinct entities with a specific meaning. Just for example, employee John Smith works on the product X project. That means works on is the relationship here. An employee connected with a project entity through the relationship works on. Or another example is employee Franklin Wong manages the research department. So here also the relationship name is manages. An object or an entity with an employee type connected to another object of department type. So we mentioned the relationship between two entities, right? John Smith works on product X. Like that, Franklin manages research department. So relation between two different entities. Now these relationships of the same type are grouped or typed into a relationship type. So that's the generalization of the relationship. Just for example, so we can in general say that works on relationship type in which the employees and projects participate, or the managers relationship type in which the employees and departments participate. So the degree of a relationship type is the number of participating entity types. So in both of the cases, like employee and project, which is a works on relation, and the second relation manages between employee and department. Those two are of binary relationship, right? Only two different entity types participate in this relationship type. So it can be of any degree, like there can be three different entity types participating in a relation, that is called ternary, and any type of degree can be there. We can see an example for relationship here. So the work for relationship type associates employee entity type with department entity types. So each entity within this employee entity type is associated with some of the department entity through this works for relation. As for example, E1 is related to D1, E2 is related to D2, E4 is related to D2, like that, right? So we can say that E1, E2, E3, etc. are instances of employee entity type, like that D1, D2, etc. are instances of department entity type, and R1, R2, R3, etc. are instances of works for relationship type. So we can say that E1 and E1, E3 and E6 works for department D1. E2 and E4 works for department D2, like that. So here we have to note one thing, that every employee is a member of some department, right? And many employees can be a member of a single department, but never a single employee can work on different departments. Okay, so the relation is always many to one, from employee to department. Another example we can see here, works on relationship type. So which connects the employee entity type with project entity type. Okay, so here we have a set of instances of this employee entity types, E1, E2, etc. En are related to these project entities or project instances P1, P2, etc. through some instances of the relationship type works on R1, R2, etc. like that. So you can see here the instance E1 of employee is related to P1, whereas E2 is related to both P1 and P4. So same employees works on different projects. Like that, if we analyze once more, the instance E2 and E3 works for project P4. That means multiple employees can work on the same project. So in both direction we have multiple or many to many relation exists here. Okay, so here it was just many to one, whereas here it is many to many. Now the relationship types. So more than one relationship type can exist with the same participating entities. Just for example, managers and works for are distinct relationship between employee and department, but with different meanings and different relationship instances. Another thing is that we can also have recursive relationship type. That is, both participations are same entity type in different roles. This, for example, supervision relationship type between employee entity type with employee entity type itself. So in one case, the role of a supervisor or boss, and the second case, role of a subordinate or worker. So you can see in the figure, the employee entity type participate in the relationship type supervision twice. First taking the role of a supervisor or boss, and second taking the role of a subordinate or worker. Just for example, the instance E1 of employee is related to E3 of the same entity type employee through in relationship instance R3. So E1 is in role 1, that is E1 is the supervisor, and E3 is the role of subordinate or worker. So E1 is the supervisor for E3 and E3 is the subordinate of E1. Next is constraints on relationships. So relationship types usually have certain constraints that limit the possible combinations of entities. Just for example, we can determine these constraints from the mini world situations that the relationship represent. For example, in our company database, company has a rule that each employee must work for exactly one department. Then we would like to describe this constraint in our schema also. So mainly two different types of constraints are there: cardinality ratio and participation. First let us go through this cardinality ratio. So also it is called ratio constraints. First is maximum cardinality. So maximum cardinality specifies the maximum number of relationship instances that an entity can participate in. Just for example, cardinality can be either one to one, one to many, and many to many. So for example, if you are taking the works for relationship between the department and employee, department to employee, the cardinality ratio is 1 to n, right? Meaning that each department can be related to any number of employees, but an employee can be related to only one department. So we can say that department to employee, the corresponding works for relation is 1 to n. Whereas employee to department, the work for relation is m to 1 or n to 1. Okay. So like that, any type of constraint can be specified in the maximum cardinality case. An example for 1 to 1 binary relation is managers, which relates a department entity to employee entity who manages the department, right? So this represents the minimal constraint that at any point in time, an employee can manage only one department and a department can have only one manager. That's a 1 to 1 relation. Second one is minimum cardinality, also called participation constraint or existence dependency constraints. So this specifies whether the existence of any entity depends on its being related to another entity via the relationship type. This constraint specifies the minimum number of relationship instances that each entity can participate in and is sometimes called the minimum cardinality constraint. Again, this minimum cardinality constraint can be divided as either total participation or partial participation. We can see an example first. Okay. If a company policy states that every employee must work for a department, then an employee entity can exist only if it participates in at least one work for relationship instance, right? So in that case, minimum cardinality is 1. Thus, the participation of employee in works for is called total participation, meaning that every entity in the total set of employee entities must be related to a department entity via the work for relation. So total participation is also called existence dependency. And the next one is partial dependency. So we can see another example for that. We don't expect every employee to manage a department, right? So the participation of employee in manager's relationship is partial, meaning that some of or part of the set of employee entities are related to some department entity via managers, but not necessarily all. Such a relationship is called partial constraint or partial dependency. We will refer to this cardinality ratio and participation constraint together as structural constraints of a relationship type. And in ER diagram, the total participation is displayed as a double line connecting to the participating entity type to the relationship, whereas partial participation is represented by a single line. So we can see example for that in the company schema we are going to design. All the relationships we have discussed so far was of binary, right? That is degree 2. That means only two different entity types participates in the corresponding relationship types. Now let us think about some higher degree relationships. So as you know, the degree of a relationship type is the number of participating entity types. So works for, works on, everything is of degree 2. Now we are giving an example for ternary relationship. Ternary means 3 different entity types participates in the relationship. Like that we can have n-array relationship also. That means n different entity types participates in the relation. So see an example for a relation which is of degree 3. So the relationship type supply connect 3 different entity types: supplier, parts and project. So for example, relationship Ri associate 3 entities: supplier S, part P and a project J. That is, whenever a supplier S supplies part P to project J. That is the relation represented by this diagram. So we have to discuss about one more thing, that is weak entity types. So we have seen an example for such an entity type. We can discuss the formal definition and all. An entity that does not have a key attribute can be called as a weak entity. So here dependent is an example for a weak entity which does not have a key. So how can we identify different instances of a particular weak entity type since it does not have a key of itself? So any entity type which have a key is called a strong entity type. Okay. So to identify any instance of a particular weak entity type, this weak entity type should be related to some strong entity type. Then only we can identify each and every instance of a weak entity type. This, for example, in our case, dependent can be related to an employee. So each employee will have a set of dependents. So only through this employee we can identify this dependence. How can we identify? We have to use a combination of two things. One is the partial key of the weak entity type, and second one is the particular entity they are related to in the identifying relationship. So we have to learn one more thing, that is the relationship between a weak entity and the corresponding strong entity. That relationship is called identifying relationship, and the corresponding strong entity is called owner entity type or identifying entity type. So in our case, stronger entity or owner entity is the entity type employee, and the weaker entity type is the dependent, and the identifying relation is called the dependent of. Okay. So we can take a combination of birth date and dependent name to identify the dependent together with the employee, especially the SSN of the employee. That together can be used to identify each and every dependent. So we have learned through all the different ingredients required to design our conceptual schema for a company database, right? So let us design this conceptual schema. That is, let us draw the corresponding ER diagram for our company database. So this is how it look like. So we have identified all the entity types. Those are employee, department, project, and then dependent. These are the entity types, and we have a set of relations. Work for is the managers, works on, controls, dependent of. and each and every entity types and some of the relationship types have attributes. Employees and all, we have already seen what are the different attributes, how they are created like that. And we have the department. One attribute is actually derived attribute. What is actually derived attribute? An attribute that can be derived from some other attribute can be called as a derived attribute. Just for example, age of a person. So if we know the birth date of a person, we can easily calculate the age of a person using the system's date, like current date, right? So we can call this age as a derived attribute. Here also we are using a number of employees as a derived attribute, because this can be derived by counting the number of employees related to that department. Like that we can just derive it. Like that, dependent is a weak entity, so a double-lined rectangle is used for representing that. The corresponding identifying relationship is the dependence of. So dependent is related to employee through this identifying relationship, dependence of. So we can say that employee is the owner entity type for this dependent relation, dependent entity type, right? Now we can go through different relationships types. Just for example, managers is a one-to-one relationship. Cardinality is one-to-one. So relationship also can have some attribute. Here start date is an attribute for the relationship type managers. Now the cardinality is one-to-one in the sense an employee can manage only one department and each department can have only one manager. That's the constraint here. Like that we have a relationship works for between employee and department, which is a total participation in both sides, right? Total participation. So employee should be a member of a department for sure, and each department should have at least one employee. And the cardinality is n to 1 in the sense employee n number of employee can be a member of the same department, and an employee can be a member of only one department at any time. So like that, every relationship is marked either partial or total. Attributes are marked. Supervision is an example for a recursive relation which connects employee to itself using a one-to-one cardinality. That means an employee can supervise n different employees, and an employee can have only one supervisor. So this is how a conceptual schema can be created for any database. Thank you.